In April 1970, the world held its breath as 3 astronauts were stranded in the vast emptiness of space, aboard the crippled Apollo 13 spacecraft. The original mission, a triumphant landing on the moon, was instantly declared a failure. But what unfolded over the next few days would become one of the most incredible survival stories in human history. And at the heart of that miracle was a young woman at NASA, a brilliant mind whose name most people have never heard. This is the story of Poppy Northcutt, NASA's forgotten hero. Let's rewind to the late 1960s. This was the golden age of space exploration, a time of immense excitement and fierce competition. NASA's Mission Control in Houston, Texas, was the epicenter of this new frontier. It was a world dominated by men in short-sleeved white shirts and skinny black ties, a sea of engineers and flight directors making split-second decisions that held the lives of astronauts in their hands. Into this world walked Poppy Northcutt. She was hired as a computress, a role often given to women with strong math skills. The term itself sounds a bit archaic now, but back then, before powerful digital computers took over, humans were the computers. They performed the complex, painstaking calculations that were the backbone of every mission. Typically, these women worked behind the scenes, their contributions vital but often invisible, far from the real-time pressure cooker of the main control room. But Poppy was different. She wasn't just running numbers. She was a genuine mathematician with an exceptional grasp of celestial mechanics. Her official title was a return-to-Earth specialist. Her job was to calculate the trajectory, the precise path a spacecraft needed to follow to get from the moon back to a safe splashdown on Earth. Think about that for a second. Her math was the invisible thread connecting the astronauts in their tiny capsule, hundreds of thousands of miles away, to their home planet. If her calculations were right, they came home. If they were wrong, they could miss Earth entirely and be lost in the void of space forever. She quickly proved her talent and was so integral to the process that she was moved from the back rooms into the main Mission Control Center, becoming the first female engineer to work on the floor during a live mission. She was a pioneer, breaking a significant barrier not with grand speeches, but with quiet competence and undeniable skill. Then came Apollo 13. On April 11, 1970, the mighty Saturn V rocket blasted off from Kennedy Space Center, carrying astronauts Jim Lovell, Jack Swigert, and Fred Hayes toward the moon. The first 2 days of the mission were flawless, almost routine. But then, about 56 hours into the flight, and over 200,000 miles from home, Mission Control heard the chilling words from Jack Swigert. "Okay, Houston, we've had a problem here." An oxygen tank had exploded, catastrophically damaging the service module, the spacecraft's powerhouse. The moon landing was immediately aborted. The new mission was brutally simple: survival. Back in Houston, alarms blared and red lights flashed across the consoles. The situation was dire. Oxygen was leaking into space. Power was failing rapidly. The command module, their ride home, had to be shut down completely to conserve its precious remaining battery power for re-entry. The crew was forced to move into the lunar module, the Aquarius, a small craft designed only to land on the moon, not to support 3 men on a multi-day journey back to Earth. It became their lifeboat, but it was a lifeboat with limited supplies, running out of power, water, and breathable air. The original flight plan was useless. The spacecraft was on a path that would miss Earth by thousands of miles. The only option was a perilous maneuver, to use the moon's gravity as a slingshot, whipping the crippled ship around the far side and flinging it back toward home. But this required a new, untested flight path. It required precise engine burns to correct their course. One wrong calculation, one burn that was too long or too short, and Apollo 13 would become a permanent monument to a failed mission, a coffin orbiting the sun. This is where Poppy Northcutt and her team became absolutely critical. The pressure was immense. The world was watching, praying for a miracle. Inside Mission Control, there was no time for fear. There was only the problem, the data, and the math. Poppy was tasked with running the Return to Earth program, the very software she had helped design. The challenge was that this software was designed to run on the powerful mainframe computers in Houston, but now the flight path had to be calculated for an emergency burn using the lunar module ZES rudimentary guidance computer, and there was a complication nobody had anticipated. The explosion had vented gases which were acting like a small, unpredictable thruster, pushing the spacecraft slowly but surely off course. Her models needed to account for this. Working nonstop, fueled by caffeine and adrenaline, Poppy and her colleagues checked and rechecked every single number. They had to figure out the exact timing and duration of a critical mid-course correction burn. This burn, using the lunar module's descent engine, would realign the spacecraft's trajectory and put it on a safe path back to Earth. The margin for error was razor-thin. They were running out of fuel, time, and options. A heartbeat sound could almost be felt in the tense silence of the control room as they relayed the final numbers to the crew. Then, the moment of truth. The astronauts, cold and exhausted in their dark, powered-down ship, fired the engine. For a few terrifying minutes, the world waited. And then, the new telemetry data came back. The correction worked. Apollo 13 was back on course. A wave of relief washed over mission control, but the ordeal was far from over. The team still had to guide them through the final hours, ensuring the command module could be powered back up for a safe re-entry through Earth's atmosphere. On April 17th, the Odyssey capsule, scorched and battered, streaked across the sky and splashed down safely in the Pacific Ocean. The world erupted in celebration. The astronauts were hailed as heroes, their courage and ingenuity rightfully praised. The narrative was set, a story of brave men overcoming impossible odds. But inside NASA, they knew the truth. This mission was saved not just by the astronauts in space, but by the collective brainpower of the team on the ground. It was a triumph of human ingenuity, teamwork, and mathematics. Poppy Northcutt had been at the very center of that triumph. She broke barriers and saved lives with her intellect and composure under unimaginable pressure. Yet as the years went by, her name, like those of many women and unsung heroes of the space program, began to fade from public memory. The iconic images from that time mostly show rooms full of men. But she was there, a lone woman in a sea of white shirts, her mind focused on the numbers that would bring 3 men home. After her time at NASA, Poppy's journey took a new path. She pursued a law degree and became a fierce advocate for women's rights and for encouraging more women to enter science, technology, engineering, and math fields. She fought to ensure that the missions of the future would include more voices like hers, not just behind the scenes, but in every role, at every level. Apollo 13 is often called a successful failure. It's a perfect description. It failed in its objective, but succeeded in demonstrating the incredible resilience of the human spirit. But without Poppy Northcutt's brilliant calculations, it might only be remembered as a tragedy. History rightly remembers the astronauts who flew through the stars. But sometimes, the people who save the mission, the ones who make the journey possible, never leave the ground. If this story inspired you, please share it. The story of space exploration isn't just about rockets and astronauts, it's about the people whose quiet brilliance and unwavering dedication keep them flying. Thanks for watching and subscribe for more untold stories from the frontiers of science and history.